Hey everyone. So the video that I'm making this time is to talk about critical thinking. Critical thinking, I think, when you're starting university, and especially you're taking courses in social sciences, which is my area, you're going to hear about this all the time. It's all about critical thinking. And well, truth is, a lot of students, especially first year students who are just starting, maybe they're not really familiar with what critical thinking is. What do we mean when we say critical thinking? So critical thinking, basically, one way to see it is thinking here of being able to look at information in a way that is careful, you're questioning it, and you're making your judgment. So put it in a way where it's like, it's not just description. Critical thinking, like description is something where you go in and say, this happened on this date. Oh, look at my cat. You're just describing something. Critical thinking goes beyond because you're not just describing things. You're using your judgment to assess the information that you've been gathering in order to come to your conclusion in many ways. So it will hopefully make more sense. So think of it like a movie critic. It's not necessarily about pointing out flaws. So when we talk about critic, it's not in the sense of criticism. It's about a critical analysis. Is you're taking in information and you are looking at it from ways that go beyond from whatever is just presented to you. So you're doing this reflection over content, over material that is given. So it's not just about being negative. It's not just about being critical. It's really about curiosity and analyzing information, analyzing data in order to come to certain conclusions. So um, I mean, one of the big things in university is, and in the social sciences even more, is that it's really not about, memorizing facts. You want to be able to understand ideas. You want to be able to evaluate evidence. You want to be able to have well-reasoned arguments. And this is how, this is where critical thinking is just essential. Like the goal is allow you to make deeper, more meaningful reflections on your essays, to better participate in tutorials, and to also to understand the readings that you're getting. Um, so what can it look in practice? So for instance, when you think of critical thinking and in practice, one of the questions might be, for instance, you're reading something and you're asking, who wrote this? You're not just taking things at face value. And so instead of just saying, I am getting this and, oh, but I saw it online, you're like, no, wait, let me step back. So who wrote this? And the idea is that, if someone is writing about COVID, well, this, Nicki Minaj said this about COVID and people who get COVID. That's going to be different from saying, you know what, this is someone who has a PhD in infectious diseases and has been researching and teaching it for the past 30 years. Of course, each individual can have, their own opinions, but we have to remember also the difference between an opinion that is, I prefer chocolate than strawberry flavored ice cream. Like that's an opinion that's not necessarily right or wrong, to something that has to do with knowledge and research. So yeah, so think, for instance, who wrote whatever it is that you're reading. It can also be you're looking at a topic, let's say climate change, and when you go and see whoever authored that, that is someone with maybe a background that has nothing to do with that. Like they do have a PhD, but they don't have an expertise in the area. Or maybe it's someone who works for, I don't know, American Institute of Petroleum, and might have a vested interest in what's coming there. So it's about evaluating, who's writing. You want to think about what the evidence is that the person is giving. So this is part of like this scientific reading, if you will. What kind of evidence? Is the evidence just anecdotal, like, oh, I'm writing about my own, oh, this is what happened to me and therefore it's going to happen to everyone, and you're making that? Or is it something, it's like, no, this is actually based on solid research. This is really good evidence. obviously, if you're just starting, this might not be so obvious, but this is something that it's a skill that you want to exercise. You want to see what is the evidence that the person is bringing, that the author is bringing to convince you that they have good evidence for the claim that they're making. Same thing. Is their argument convincing? This is a crucial part of critical thinking. Is it convincing or not? And if it is, why? If it's not, then why isn't? This is sometimes really at the core of what it means to do critical thinking and what it means to engage in a critical analysis. You're going to think, am I convinced by what this person is saying based on the evidence that they're showing? Like, does this make sense? What assumptions are they making? So this is also very important, and this is valid for all areas, regardless of, you don't have to be in the social sciences. You can go much beyond. Like, I'm thinking of one that I saw the other day of this woman who really specializes in women and exercise, and how she's saying that most studies that are done on exercise are generally done on men. And in a lot of the literature that comes to, female anatomy and bodybuilding and exercise and hormones, it essentially treats women as small men, which is not the case, because hormones do have an impact on a series of things. Anyway, this is an example of an assumption that might not be evident, but it's also to be, what are the assumptions that this author is making, that this person is making when they're making the statements, and also to be thinking critically on, what is being left out from what you're reading. How is the reading compared to other viewpoints? So essentially, critical thinking is about not being passive to the information that is given to you. It's not just taking everything at face value. You are examining it, but not examining it just because, oh, I like it, I don't like it, or it matches what I have, and what I already felt and what I already assumed. But to say, is this good evidence? Are the arguments good? Are they better than the other? So that's part of the critical scientific thinking that goes into it. And again, this is not a skill. This is not a personality trait. This is a skill. This is something that you develop over time. So you want to be reading and you want to be thinking about all of these different elements. This is really at the core of, especially in the case of social sciences, what's going to take you, let's say, from an average essay where you're like, there's nothing wrong, but there's not really that thinking. And this part where you can see, where for us when we're marking, that you can see that person really was able to gather that information and try to connect and was reflecting. Like, this is the beauty that we want to see. So yeah, be curious, ask good questions, and explore. And yeah, hope this was helpful.